In October 1962, the world teetered on the brink of catastrophe, a tense standoff marked by the looming threat of nuclear annihilation. Most people, however, chose to ignore the specter of destruction hanging over their daily lives. In Washington, D.C., a group of advisors gathered in a dimly lit room, the air thick with anxiety. President John F. Kennedy, a man in his early 40s with dark hair and piercing blue eyes, listened intently as they debated the options before them. Across the ocean, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev, a stocky man in his late 60s with a bald head and a thick mustache, believed that placing missiles in Cuba would finally level the playing field against American nuclear dominance. As the days passed, American reconnaissance planes soared over Cuba, capturing images of missile sites under construction. Each photograph revealed a chilling reality, igniting fears of an imminent threat just 90 miles from Florida. In the quiet of the White House, Kennedy weighed the options: diplomacy, airstrikes, or a full invasion. Each choice carried the weight of potential destruction, as advisors argued passionately, their voices reflecting the gravity of the moment. Meanwhile, Khrushchev remained resolute, convinced that the missiles would safeguard Cuba from American aggression. His confidence masked the deep-seated fear of a possible confrontation that could spiral out of control. The world held its breath, caught in a delicate balance of pride and fear. Leaders on both sides believed in the power of deterrence, yet the specter of miscalculation loomed larger with every passing hour. As the situation escalated, citizens across both superpowers continued their lives, blissfully unaware of the impending crisis. Children played in parks, couples strolled hand in hand, and life went on, seemingly untouched. Yet, beneath the surface, military forces prepared for the worst. Troops trained, missiles were readied, and the machinery of war began to hum ominously, a silent reminder of the stakes at play. In both capitals, leaders exchanged messages, each seeking to assert their power while avoiding a direct confrontation. The stakes were high, and the world balanced precariously on a wire of nerves. As the clock ticked down, the potential for disaster grew. Each decision made in the coming days would carry monumental consequences, as the line between peace and war blurred ever more. With the world on the brink, one question loomed above all: would reason prevail, or would pride and fear lead to a catastrophic miscalculation that could change the course of history forever? As the U.S. Navy tightens its blockade around Cuba, Soviet submarines stealthily navigate the Atlantic. Each vessel carries the weight of nuclear torpedoes, unknown to American commanders, hidden in the depths of the ocean. Inside one submarine, the atmosphere is tense. The crew, a mix of young men and seasoned sailors, sweat under the oppressive heat. Voices rise as they debate whether they are under attack, their eyes wide with fear. The captain, a stocky man in his mid-40s, with a weathered face and a deep scar across his cheek, believes they are already at war. He grips the periscope, scanning for threats, convinced that hesitation could mean destruction. Depth charges explode nearby, shaking the submarine. The crew's nerves fray further as they struggle to maintain communication with Moscow. Each blast reinforces their belief that an attack is underway, pushing them closer to a fateful decision. With oxygen levels dwindling and panic rising, the captain makes a harrowing choice. He orders the launch of a nuclear torpedo, believing it to be the only way to secure their survival in an already lost battle. The torpedo launches into the dark waters, a silent harbinger of chaos. Moments later, it finds its target, an unsuspecting American destroyer patrolling the quarantine line, unaware of the impending doom. The explosion is catastrophic. A blinding underwater fireball engulfs the destroyer, sending debris and flames into the ocean. The Cold War has transformed into an active conflict, though no one on land yet comprehends the scale of what has occurred. Back in Washington, the Pentagon receives fragmented reports of the explosion. Confusion reigns as military leaders scramble to assess the situation, grappling with the terrifying possibility that a nuclear war has begun. With each passing moment, the stakes escalate. Commanders debate whether to retaliate or seek clarification. Fear grips the room as they realize that one miscalculation could lead to unimaginable consequences. In Moscow, Soviet leaders receive word of the explosion but lack clarity. Panic spreads among them as they assess their options. uncertain whether to respond with restraint or to escalate the conflict further. As the hours tick by, the world teeters on the brink. The potential for retaliation looms large, and the line between peace and war blurs. Each decision carries the weight of history, and time is running out. In the depths of the Atlantic, the submarine crew remains unaware of the chaos they have unleashed. They are trapped in their own reality, believing they are fighting for survival, while the world above spirals into a crisis. As dawn breaks over the Atlantic, radar operators in the United States detect an unexplained loss of contact with an American destroyer. Tension fills the air as confusion reigns in the control room, where officers scramble to make sense of the situation. In the Pentagon, high-ranking officials gather around a large table, faces drawn and serious. They debate whether the explosion was an accident, a rogue act, or the start of a nuclear conflict, each scenario weighing heavily on their minds. Meanwhile, in Moscow, Soviet leaders receive fragmented reports about the explosion. Confusion spreads among them as they attempt to piece together the implications, fearing they are on the brink of war. Fighter jets roar to life on airstrips across the United States. Pilots, young and tense, strap into their cockpits, knowing that the fate of nations rests on their swift response to an unknown threat. As the minutes tick by, missile crews across America receive orders to go on high alert. The atmosphere is thick with anxiety as soldiers prepare for a potential retaliation that could change the world forever. In the chaos, diplomatic channels falter. Messages meant to de-escalate tensions are lost in the fog of fear, leaving leaders to rely on their worst assumptions about the intentions of the enemy. Back in the control room, officers face the grim reality that every second counts. They know that hesitation could lead to catastrophic decisions, and the weight of their choices hangs heavily in the air. As confusion mounts, the Soviet Union prepares its own response. Military leaders gather, their faces etched with determination as they strategize under the looming threat of American aggression. With each passing moment, the potential for miscalculation grows. Both sides are locked in a deadly game of chess, where one wrong move could trigger a chain reaction leading to nuclear catastrophe. In the war rooms, the tension is palpable. Officers and commanders exchange glances filled with unspoken fears, aware that the decisions they make now will echo through history. As the first hour draws to a close, uncertainty reigns. The world stands on a precipice, and the next steps taken by either side could plunge humanity into darkness. As dawn breaks over the Caribbean, American bombers take flight, their engines roaring against the stillness. The mission is clear: strike Soviet missile sites in Cuba before they can be fully operational. Tension fills the air as the pilots, young and resolute, prepare for a task that could ignite global conflict. In Cuba, Soviet soldiers scramble to man their air defenses. The air is thick with anticipation as radar screens flicker to life, revealing incoming threats. Each soldier, clad in olive drab uniforms, understands the stakes. Their homeland's safety hangs in the balance, and the tension is palpable. Back in Washington, President Kennedy and his advisors huddle in the Situation Room. Their faces, illuminated by the harsh glow of overhead lights, reveal the weight of decision-making. The room buzzes with urgency as they assess the unfolding situation, knowing that each choice could lead to catastrophe. As American strikes commence, communication lines falter. Confusion reigns on both sides. In Moscow, leaders receive fragmented reports, their expressions shifting from shock to anger. The realization that restraint is slipping away hangs heavy in the air, and the atmosphere grows increasingly fraught. Across Europe, NATO commanders prepare for the worst. Military personnel rush to their posts, readying tanks and aircraft. The streets echo with the sounds of sirens, a grim reminder that war is no longer a distant threat but a looming reality. Panic begins to seep into everyday life. In Cuba, the air is thick with smoke as American bombs strike their targets. The ground shakes and the roar of explosions drowns out cries for calm. Soviet forces respond with anti-aircraft fire, their determination unwavering despite the chaos surrounding them. The cycle of retaliation begins. As the strikes escalate, civil defense sirens blare in cities across the United States. Families huddle in basements, clutching each other in fear. Government officials assure the public that they are safe, but the growing uncertainty gnaws at the edges of their reassurances. In the chaos, leaders cling to the belief that they can control the situation. Each limited strike is seen as a necessary measure, but the reality is that every action breeds a reaction. The machinery of war, once set in motion, shows no signs of slowing down. As the hours pass, the world holds its breath. Reports of casualties begin to emerge, and the gravity of the situation weighs heavily on both sides. In the streets, people grasp at hope, but fear looms larger as the threat of total war becomes increasingly real. With each passing moment, the stakes escalate. Military leaders on both sides prepare for a broader conflict, their minds racing with the possibilities of what comes next. The delicate balance of power is shifting, and the consequences of miscalculation grow ever more dire. As night falls, the world remains on edge, caught in a precarious dance of escalation. The belief that restraint can still prevail is fading, and the specter of a larger conflict looms ever closer. In the shadows, the future hangs in the balance, uncertain and fraught with peril. As the clock ticks toward catastrophe, the first strategic missiles launch from silos across the United States. Each rocket, a harbinger of destruction, pierces the sky, leaving trails of smoke against the fading light of dusk. In the Soviet Union, the response is swift. Strategic missiles are fired towards American cities, their paths marked by streaks of light illuminating the night. The air is thick with tension, a silence before the storm. Cities like Washington, New York, and London become targets of fate. The moment of ignition arrives, and blinding light engulfs urban landscapes, erasing the familiar in an instant. Buildings crumble, lives extinguished. As the shock waves radiate outward, entire neighborhoods are flattened. The sound of destruction is deafening, yet it is soon replaced by a haunting silence, a stillness that blankets the aftermath. In the chaos, millions perish within moments, their stories lost to the flames. Survivors emerge from the wreckage, disoriented and in shock, struggling to comprehend the magnitude of their new reality. In the wake of destruction, military command structures falter. Orders become meaningless as leaders scramble for information, their authority crumbling under the weight of chaos and uncertainty. The concept of victory evaporates in the face of annihilation. Once proud nations are reduced to ashes, their ideologies failing to protect them from the reality of nuclear firestorms. As the fires rage, the skies transform into a canvas of unnatural colors. The air is thick with smoke, and the sun struggles to break through, casting an eerie glow over the desolation. Amidst the ruins, the few who survive grapple with their new existence. They wander through the remnants of their lives, searching for meaning in a world that has shifted irrevocably. In the silence that follows the storm, humanity faces a stark new reality. The remnants of civilization lie in tatters, and the struggle for survival begins in earnest, as hope flickers dimly. As the dust settles, the world is forever changed. The echoes of the exchange resonate through the empty streets, leaving behind a haunting reminder of what once was and what could never be. Weeks have passed since the bombs fell, and a pall of ash hangs over the remnants of civilization. The sun struggles to pierce through the thick clouds, casting a dim light over desolate streets where once bustling cities now lie silent and empty. In this new world, temperatures have plummeted and crops wither in the fields. Farmers, once proud stewards of the land, now scavenge for seeds and remnants of harvests that will never come. Hunger gnaws at the survivors. Governments that once wielded power have dissolved or retreated into underground bunkers. Leaders cling to radios, hoping for news from the outside world, but static fills the air, drowning their desperate pleas for order. Soldiers, once trained for combat, now take on the role of caretakers. They patrol the ruins, keeping watch over the remnants of society, but their eyes reveal a deeper truth. They are scavengers in a land stripped bare. Borders have lost significance as people wander, searching for safety and sustenance. Nations are mere memories, replaced by a desperate struggle for survival that transcends old divisions and ideologies. In rural areas, small communities band together, pooling resources and knowledge to endure. They share stories of the past, forging bonds in the face of an uncertain future, as hope flickers like a candle in the dark. Famine and disease spread like wildfire, claiming lives indiscriminately. The once vibrant tapestry of society unravels, leaving behind a stark landscape where survival is the only currency that matters. In this harsh reality, the remnants of technology become relics of a bygone era. A few scavengers manage to find old radios and books, clinging to fragments of knowledge that might help them navigate their new world. As time drags on, the past becomes a distant memory. The war that ended the world is spoken of in hushed tones, transformed into myths that shape the identities of those who survive. Yet amid the despair, resilience emerges. People adapt, finding ways to cultivate small gardens and raise livestock, learning to live with the scars of their shattered world as they strive to rebuild. The struggle for survival continues, and the future remains uncertain. Each day is a test of endurance, as humanity grapples with the consequences of its choices, teetering on the brink of hope and despair. In the years following the nuclear catastrophe, a new generation emerges in the shadows of crumbling cities. Children play in the remnants of skyscrapers, their laughter echoing against the silence of a world forever altered. They know nothing of the vibrant past, only the tales of survival that their parents whisper in the dark. This is a world where innocence clashes with the harsh realities of a broken humanity. The landscape is littered with relics of the old world. Abandoned cars rust in overgrown lots, while faded billboards stand as ghostly reminders of a time when hope seemed limitless. In this desolation, a sense of nostalgia lingers, but it is overshadowed by the struggle for basic survival. Knowledge of the past is fragmented, preserved only in the minds of a few who remember. Among the survivors, a young girl named Elena, with dark brown eyes and a thin frame, carries a weathered book filled with stories of the world before. She clings to it like a lifeline, sharing its tales with her friends around a flickering fire. For them, these stories are not just entertainment. They are a connection to a lost civilization, a glimpse into a life they can only imagine. In the absence of formal education, communities form their own systems of knowledge. Elders teach children how to forage for food and purify water, passing down skills that are vital for survival. These lessons are steeped in urgency as resources dwindle and competition for the essentials grows fierce. The wisdom of the past becomes a tool for navigating the present. As time unfolds, the remnants of the old world become mythologized. Stories of the war and its devastation morph into legends, shaping the identity of the new generation. The Cold War, once a political struggle, transforms into a cautionary tale told around campfires, warning of the dangers of power and pride. History fades into folklore. In this fractured society, power dynamics shift dramatically. Those who control food and water become the new leaders, while others are left to fend for themselves. Barter replaces currency, and alliances form out of necessity rather than trust. The struggle for survival breeds both cooperation and conflict, as communities grapple with their new realities. Elena and her friends venture into the radioactive ruins of the city, scavenging for remnants of the past. They find broken toys and faded photographs, each item a fragment of a life that once was. As they sift through the debris, they begin to understand the weight of what has been lost, shaping their resolve to create a different future. In the shadows of the old world, new myths emerge. Stories of heroes and villains, of bravery and betrayal, circulate among the children. They create their own narratives, imagining what it means to be human in a landscape marked by devastation. These tales become a source of hope, a way to reclaim their identity amidst chaos. As seasons change, so too does the landscape. Nature begins to reclaim its territory, creeping through the cracks of concrete and steel. Wildflowers bloom in unexpected places, offering a stark contrast to the devastation. For the children, these signs of life serve as a reminder that resilience can flourish even in the harshest environments. Yet, the specter of the past looms large. The children hear whispers of the war that shattered their world, stories tinged with fear and awe. They grapple with the legacy of destruction, seeking to understand their place in a history that feels both distant and immediate. The weight of memory hangs over them, shaping their dreams and aspirations. Elena, now a young woman, stands at the edge of the city, looking out over the landscape that has become her home. She holds the weathered book tightly, a symbol of the knowledge she carries forward. In her heart, she knows that the stories of the past will guide her generation as they strive to rebuild a world from the ashes of the old. In the shadow of the Cuban Missile Crisis, the world teetered on the brink of annihilation. Yet one man, Vasily Arkhipov, stood firm against the tide, refusing to launch the torpedo that could have ignited global war. The decision to hold back was not merely an act of bravery, it was a moment of clarity amidst chaos. Arkhipov's choice reverberated through history, altering the course of humanity at a critical juncture. As the world continued to hold its breath, leaders in Washington and Moscow engaged in tense negotiations, each aware that a single misstep could lead to irreversible consequences. In the aftermath of the crisis, the scars of near destruction lingered. The Cold War did not end, but a new understanding emerged: the fragility of peace and the weight of responsibility. Years later, historians and scholars would analyze those fateful days, uncovering layers of human emotion, fear, and the delicate balance of power that shaped the modern world. The stories of those who lived through the crisis became lessons for future generations. They highlighted the importance of dialogue, understanding, and the need for restraint in the face of fear. In the years that followed, the world gradually shifted. The concept of mutually assured destruction became a cautionary tale, reminding leaders that the stakes of conflict were higher than ever. The Cold War continued, but the near miss of 1962 instilled a sense of urgency in arms control efforts. Treaties emerged, fostering a fragile hope for a future free from the specter of nuclear war. As decades passed, the memory of that tense October faded, yet the lessons remained. The world learned that history is often shaped by the choices of individuals in pivotal moments. Today, the legacy of the Cuban Missile Crisis serves as a reminder of our shared humanity. The war that never happened echoes through time, urging us to choose dialogue over destruction. In the end, the future is not determined by fate, but by the choices we make in moments of crisis. The fragility of peace is a lesson we must carry forward, always.